Hello and welcome. My name is Max Morgan Butcher, and I'm the Education and Development Manager at San Francisco Opera Guild. Tonight, we have a very special presentation for you on Jake Heggie and Terrance McNally's Dead Man Walking. But before we jump in, I'd like to take a quick moment to share with you about our organization's work and mission. San Francisco Opera Guild was established in 1939, and while we are technically a separate nonprofit organization from San Francisco Opera, many of our programs support the opera's work and help bring opera education to the community. Today's presentation is part of the Opera Previews program, a free lecture series featuring distinguished professors, dramaturgs, and artists that helps enrich the audience's experience of main stage productions at San Francisco Opera. However, our primary commitment as an organization is to bring quality education and arts engagement to schools around the San Francisco Bay Area. While you might be familiar with our in-school programs such as Opera Together and Sing a Story, we have an incredible range of offerings for students K through 12 that ignite a creative spark and grow curiosity in the arts. From the Opera Scouts to Voices for Social Justice, our teaching artists foster collaboration, self-esteem, and critical thinking skills in students with diverse backgrounds and life experiences. I encourage you to learn more about the Guild's work by visiting our website at sfoperaguild.com. And now for the main event. Tonight's opera preview features two distinguished guests, dramaturg emeritus Kip Cranna and composer Jake Heggie. Clifford Kip Cranna is scholar in residence of San Francisco Opera, where he served on the staff for over 40 years and managed the commissions of new operas, including Dead Man Walking. In 2008, he was awarded the San Francisco Opera Medal, the company's highest honor. In 2014, he received the Star of Excellence Award from San Francisco Opera Guild. He holds a PhD in musicology from Stanford University and teaches opera appreciation at the Fromm Institute at USF, Stanford Continuing Studies, and the Osher Lifelong Learning Institutes at UC Berkeley, San Francisco State, and Dominican University. Tonight's special guest is composer Jake Heggie, best known for Dead Man Walking, the most widely performed opera the most widely performed new opera of the last 25 years. Based on the book by Sister Helen Prejean, it features a libretto by the late Terrance McNally and has received more than 80 international productions. His operas Moby Dick, Intelligence, Three Decembers, and It's a Wonderful Life, all with libretti by Gene Shear, as well as his more than 300 art songs, have also established themselves in the classical music canon. Heggie is Musical America's 2025 Composer of the Year and recently joined the composition faculty at San Francisco Conservatory of Music. In a moment, I'm going to hand things off to Kip to begin tonight's conversation. If you have any questions for our speakers, please drop them in the Q&A and we'll do our best to address them at the end of the discussion. We will also be putting relevant links in the chat and engaging with your questions throughout this program. Take it away, Kip.
Thank you, Max. It's great to be here and great to talk to my friend Jake. I'm having a little sense of deja vu here. This is not the first time we've done this.
No, not even the first 10 or 20 times.
We actually did an interview kind of conversation before the first performances 25 years ago. And again, it's astonishing to
Yeah,
think it was that long.
25 years. It's amazing.
It's been quite a journey since then. I'm going to start sharing my screen right away because we've got some slides to show you that will sort of provoke conversation, I hope, and will also give you some audio and video to get you ready for the show. I'm just going to get the slideshow ready here. It takes a second. Here we go. All right, so there we have our title slide, and that's the graphic that San Francisco Opera's come up with, which I think is, we were just chatting, Jake and I, about how effective this is. It seems to capture the whole spirit of the
It
show.
really captures the story. I mean, the fact that he's behind bars and the section that she's taken off is not only across, but it's in front of his mouth. And part of one of the things she tells him is the truth will set you free. And so it captures so much of what's going on.
Well done.
Yeah.
So this is the 25th anniversary of this opera that was commissioned here when you were composer in residence
Yeah.
for the company.
Yeah.
Again, as I say, hard to believe. We were
Yeah.
younger in those days. My job was purely bureaucratic, making sure the commission actually was organized. But I want to point out that this is the now the list of Jake's operas with Dead Man Walking at the bottom there, the very first one. So he really hit the ground running and
He,
came out very successfully.
well, it opened the doorway to a career I could never have imagined, truly. Just miraculous. And the fact that it took off and became as popular as it has become, no one could have predicted. But it literally, all of a sudden, I was being invited to write all kinds of operas in all different sizes for companies all over the country. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, some of these are chamber operas
Yeah.
or one-person shows and that
Yes.
sort of thing, and
Yeah.
others are very grand. Moby Dick, of course, is
Yeah, that's a
very
big one.
small
Yes.
piece that
Yeah, yeah.
has been done in many places, including the Met
Yeah.
last
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
So that must have been something. I one thing that I'm sure I felt sadness about was the fact that when um, Dead Man Walking made it to the Met in
Mhm.
2023, that Terrance McNally, your librettist, was not there to. He
No.
was taken by COVID early on in the pandemic, which is
Yes. It was very, very sad because he was so excited about it going to the Met. And, it had to be postponed one time because of the pandemic. But he succumbed. He'd been dealing with lung cancer for almost 20 years by that
oh,
time. But it was COVID that actually took him away from us.
I know
But
for such an opera buff as he is,
yeah.
that would have been
We
the
got to,
pinnacle.
yeah, but we did get to write some other operas together. Great Scott was his libretto, his original libretto. Three Decembers is based on his play. Um, and it was his idea to write an opera based on the end of the affair, even though he didn't write the libretto. At the Statue of Venus was
That
his
was his idea
libretto.
too.
That was his libretto. And
Yeah.
Moby Dick was his idea as well. So all the early operas were all Terrance McNally influenced. I wouldn't have a career if it weren't for Terrance.
Well, we'll get into a little more detail
Yeah.
about that, but I just want to point out something. This is from the source Opera Base. The most frequently composed living American composers in the last 10 years are Philip Glass, who was a New Yorker, Jake Heggie, who was a San Franciscan, and John Adams, who is also in the Bay Area in Berkeley.
Yeah.
So you're in very distinguished
I
company.
am honored beyond words. That is incredible.
So let's talk about Terrance and the fact that you got matched up with him to do this opera. This list of opera of plays, mainly, some of which were turned into movies. I always point out to people, if you think you've never heard or seen anything by Terrance McNally, you're wrong,
Yes.
because I can't imagine anyone who goes out at all
Right.
hasn't seen one of these shows.
Yes.
So did you know about Terrance before you were matched up with him for
Oh,
this opera?
absolutely. I knew all about him from Love, Valor, Compassion, and especially Masterclass, um,
Which is about Maria Callas.
which is about Maria Callas, and which I saw on Broadway, and which our director for Dead Man Walking here at the San Francisco Opera, he was the director of the premiere on Broadway of Masterclass, Leonard Folia. And he attributes his career to Terrance McNally as well. So yes, I was overwhelmed at the thought of doing something with Terrance. He was also a frequent radio guest on the Metropolitan Opera
That's right.
quiz
Mhm.
with Lotfi Mansouri, which is how Lotfi got to know Terrance.
Speaking of Lotfi, let's start that story. So
Yeah.
he was general director here at San Francisco Opera in the 90s.
Yes.
And actually, one of the very first things he said to me when he took over the company was, Kip, I want to commission an opera with a libretto by Terrance McNally. So that idea was there and it connected with you. So tell us that story.
Wow. Well, at that point, I started in 1994 at the San Francisco Opera as a writer in the PR and marketing department. Um, and which is I was my day job while I was
But you had
pursuing
a
other
career as a
things.
pianist, probably.
Yeah, ish, but I had injured my hand, and so I wasn't able to play for about 5 years while I was building a new technique and re-educating my hand. And when I moved to San Francisco in '93, I was starting to be able to play again, and I got a job at Cal Performances first, and then Elena Park. I met her at a holiday champagne tasting party, and she was head of the communications department here at the opera, and
She
she
went on
told
to run the telecast at the Met.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. And we met and we got along, and there was a position open for a writer in the PR marketing department. And she said I should apply. And I got the job. And so I started in the PR marketing department on April 6, 1994, and immediately started meeting and working with the greatest singers. and the greatest people, and being on the inside of producing opera, something I could never ever have imagined. And it was just a really magical time. And I was writing for Renee Fleming and Frederica von Stade and all these others, Jennifer Larmore and Dawn Upshaw.
They were commissioning you to write songs for
They were
them?
just asking for songs.
Mhm.
My first commission was actually from Jimmy Schwabacher.
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful patron of the arts in that
yes. But
sense.
meanwhile, I had just been writing these songs as gifts. And the crazy thing was that they started talking amongst each other, amongst themselves. And singers were coming to the press office not to ask about an interview or see their bio or something, but to ask if I had a song they could include on a recital because the word was good. Anyway, Lotfi was noticing this all the time, and he at a party asked me sort of casually, "You're writing all these songs for all these singers. Have you ever thought about writing an opera?" And at that point, I was like, "No, no, I really hadn't thought about it because I'd seen what it takes to put one together." And he said, "Well, we should talk." And so I thought it was just party talk or something. And, anyway,
Pleasantries.
pleasantries. And the next day, his assistant, Winifred, called me up and asked me to come to the office. And I'm there with my pad and paper, ready to write the next press release or speech or whatever. And he said, "Put the pad down. Let's talk about your opera. We have an opening in the 2000 season. And, uh, and I want to send you to New York to meet with Terrance McNally. I've been trying to interest in him writing a libretto, and I think you two would make a good team." And I'm just thinking, who are you talking to? But he made it happen, and that led to meeting with Terrance, and we got along, and it took us a while to find our footing. Um,
Now, Lotfi he wanted something for the millennium.
yes.
He wanted something in a comic line, sort of as the French say, plus ça change, plus la même chose. That in every period in history, people are nostalgic for an earlier time,
Yeah.
and this was his idea. This French film, Les Belles de Nuit. What was Terrence's reaction to this proposal?
It was not positive. I was still working for Laffy and I had this opportunity. So I was in no position to disagree. And I thought that could be fun to work on. Sure, why not?
Mhm.
And try to find a way to make it contemporary and like deal with this dream world as well as the real world.
I mean, it was fundamentally a good idea to
Yeah,
celebrate the millennium, but not for
yeah.
this team.
But he was kind of horrified that I would suggest such a thing. And I told him it was my boss's idea. But he really wanted his first opera libretto to be a big American drama,
Contemporary.
contemporary. And he wanted something that was, and this is why it's so hard to find these stories. He wanted something that felt very American, but universal, very much of our time, and yet timeless. And we started throwing ideas back and forth, and it was very, very challenging. And so he came to San Francisco in 1997 with a list of 10 ideas. And he said, "I have 10 ideas, but there's only one I want to do. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because we both have to want to do the same thing." And the first thing he said was Dead Man Walking. And literally, I got shivers. Every hair went up on my head, my back of the neck, my arms. I was just on fire with it because the emotion, it was so popular at that moment. It was so talked about and it was so controversial
Because of the film.
because of the film and the best-selling book. So everyone knew about it. Everyone knew the title. I thought it has title recognition, has huge emotion. It has huge cultural resonance. It's also a social justice story, which when you look at the history of opera, most great operas have a social justice message. Everything from the Marriage of Figaro and Semele to, Butterfly and Bohème
Even
and
Traviata.
Traviata and Peter Grimes and, all of them. So it struck me on all those levels, and I could imagine ensembles. And so anyway, I said, "That's it. You don't need to go any further." And he said, "Well, I did write down all these ideas. I'll read the rest of them." So he read the rest, and really, I don't remember any of them because I was so set on Dead Man Walking.
Well, it turned out to be quite successful, as you
Yeah.
can see on this slide. It's been done almost everywhere. All the major companies in the country practically have done it, and it's been done in Europe and Australia. Interesting, the European countries don't have the death penalty, yet this is a topic that somehow resonates there.
Because it's a deeply human journey. And every culture struggles with this question about what do you do with truly guilty people who are truly guilty of horrible, heinous acts? What do you as a society do? And with the death penalty, the question is killing someone to prove that killing is wrong contradictory, or does that make sense? If you explain it to a child, I know my husband and I have a almost 30-year-old son now, and when I was writing this, he was asking about it. Without going into too much detail, I said, "Well, this guy killed these young people, and so now the government is going to kill him." And then he thought, and he said, "So who kills the government then?" And it's like, and because he's trying to think logically, if you're
Right.
killing someone, and then who kills that person, and then who kills that person? So but it brings up all of those questions that I think every society deals with.
It certainly had that kind of reception, I think, in many places
Yeah.
where it stirs up a lot of, it doesn't answer questions necessarily, but it certainly poses
It
them to be looked
poses the
upon.
questions. This was the thing of the brilliance of Terrence's libretto, too, is that it poses all these questions, but it gives you just a human story and human faces and different perspectives. And it leaves you at the end wondering, well, what is the answer to this? Is this the right thing to do? Was justice served? Is everything solved? Is anything better? It's remarkable. And to have an entire audience of however big the hall is, in this case, 3,000, to have an entire audience of 3,000 people witness this journey and then be left with that question. And yet it opens up a dialogue for a community where there maybe wasn't one about something that people try to think of in the abstract, and frankly, I was there too. I only thought about it in the abstract as well. But when it was suggested, it was like, yeah, if someone killed my loved one, I might want to kill that person myself.
Right.
And I totally understand that. But does that solve it?
Right. Even Sister Helen has
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
Uh, just some plugs here about the media that's available for this show. We did a commercial recording using the original Broadway cast, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
in 2000. And there's a very fine documentary called And Then One Night, which is a line from the opera, which explores not only the making of the opera, the workshopping and development and so forth, but also stitches that with interviews with people who have encountered deadly violence, whose
Yeah.
family members have been murdered or family
Yeah.
members of murderers, etc. And Houston also made a recording in 2011, so there's plenty of media available. So let's talk about how this actually came about. Sister Helen Prejean wrote her book in 1993, which is not a novel. Some people have thought it was a fictional work, but it's actually a memoir about her work with death row inmates.
Yeah.
Turned into a very successful movie in 1995. Susan Sarandon won the Oscar for her portrayal of Sister Helen, and
Yes.
Sean Penn was the prisoner. When did you first encounter Sister Helen? What was that like?
Well, when we suggested, first of all, when we decided we wanted to do Dead Man Walking, we had to tell Lotfi, and he was still thinking comedy,
Right.
something lighthearted and fun. And so we went to his office, and I was still working for him. And so I looked at Terrance and I said, "You tell him." And so Terrance said, "We want to do an opera based on Dead Man Walking." And I remember Lotfi's face, just like this jolt and this shock. And he looked and he said, "I never would have thought of it, but what a brilliant idea." And so he was on board immediately with the idea. And so then we had to get rights. And so Sister Helen, out of the blue, called me on my phone. Maybe I had been warned she might be calling me because she wanted to talk to the creatives that were
Of
going to be
course.
involved. And so she called and I answered the phone. She goes, "This is Sister Helen Prejean. I'd like to speak to Jake Heggie." And I said, "This is Jake." And she goes, "Jake, I understand you and the San Francisco Opera want to make an opera out of Dead Man Walking." You know what I said to that, Jake? I said, "Of course we're going to make an opera out of Dead Man Walking, but I don't know boo scat about opera, Jake. So you're going to have to educate me." Now, she must have done some research because she said, "Now, you don't write this atonal stuff, right? I mean, we're going to have a tune we can hum, right?" That was very, and I said, "Yes, I write big tunes. I believe in the soaring lyricism of the voice and all of that." And And then she said, Jake, I know you and Terrance are going to have to change things from the book, from what actually happened. You're adapting it for the stage. I know you're seeking emotional truth, which means you have to invent characters, you have to change things around. The one thing I ask is that it stay a story of redemption. And we said, absolutely, that is our goal. And she was happy and she trusted us. And she was a real collaborator all the way along. She even sent me tapes of her singing.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, these wonderful tape recordings, sometimes when she was in her car, sometimes when she was just at Hope House, or, and it was amazing. So, and it really inspired me because it humanized her to me so much. So she was a great collaborator right from day one.
Let's talk about the hymn that you created. This is sort of Sister Helen's signature tune, if you will,
Yeah.
which in a technical musicology analysis would point out is pentatonic, which means it only uses 5 notes of the scale, which is very similar to a lot of traditional melodies like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, or Amazing Grace, and Jesus Loves Me, and all
Uh-huh.
these things. Let's listen, and then I'd like you to tell me and the audience about how you came up with this.
Okay.
This is from the original production.
He will gather us around, all around. He will gather us
Now, this really seems to me like something that's always been out there, that's been part of the cultural tradition going back to, some distant time. How did this come to you?
Well, Terrance and I had been talking about needing a hymn, something very personal for Sister Helen to go through the journey of the opera with, something that she turns back to, something that's recognizable, that sounds like it's been part of her life for a long time. And, I mean, no small feat. But he didn't have words. He didn't have, and he was leaving all that up to me. And so we'd been talking about it. And right after the announcement of the opera in March of 98 in New York, Terrance and I were going to his house in Key West so he could write the first act libretto. He wanted me with him when that happened. And I was about to get into the cab, and the whole thing just came to me. Just like the tune, the words, everything just suddenly happened.
The muse had visited you.
Yes, I mean, getting into a New York taxi, you just never know. And so I wasn't getting in, and Terrance leaned over and he goes, "Are you all right? Are you going to get in the cab?" And I said, "Actually, I'm really, really good right now." And so I got in the cab and I said, "I think I found the tune and the words." And so I started singing it to him. And he was like, "Yeah, I think you have it." So, and that was the part of the journey as well. Yeah.
Speaking of Sister Helen's journey, let's hear her talk a bit about it.
Sure.
First time I saw the opera in San Francisco, and the curtain opened, and out came Sister Helen singing My Journey. What it did for me was it brought the story that I wanted to bring close to the American public in the deepest possible way through the fullness of art, which opera is. I mean, I sometimes say you ought to have seat belts in the seats in an opera, because you witness the murder of 2 innocent people. You know who did it. You see him. He's not remorseful. There's a part of your heart saying, bring it on. Then you meet the parents, the victim's family, and it brings people through an incredible journey. I'm Sister Helen Prejean, and I'm the author of Dead Man Walking. I invite you into this journey. The aria of my character is my journey, but you as an audience are going to go to very deep places that the opera is going to take you into through live drama and through wonderful music that will instruct your heart as you make the journey.
Well, let's listen to the journey as it came out in the opera. This is Joyce DiDonato at the Met. Tell us what's going on in this journey.
Okay, so she's become a pen pal with Joseph Desrochers, who's on death row, and he's invited her to come visit him at the Angola State Penitentiary in Louisiana. And so she decides she's going to go, and she's in the car on the way, and she knows it's one of these moments in your life where there's going to be everything that happened before and everything that happens after. And it's just, she's unsure about where it's going to go, what it means for her, but she knows she's being called to do something special. And so she sings this aria called This Journey.
We'll listen to just a part of it.
This journey to Christ, this journey to my Lord, this journey to myself, to my Jesus, to this this journey to the truth, this journey.
Your music makes a lot of use of very recognizable motives. There was one there, this journey to the truth.
Right.
Um,
Thank you. Beautifully sung.
Oh, thank you. No extra charge for that. For me, it really explores the dilemma that Helen is getting into. It's not just a simple thing to go chat with a guy who's going to die.
Right.
And so I think it very effectively brings us to the place that she is in the struggle.
And she is the everyman, the every person who takes us on the journey. She doesn't know any more really than we do as the audience, except that we know he did it and he's really guilty because we see him in the prologue. We see the crime, we see who did it, we know how horrible it is. And but she takes us by the hand, the audience, and we learn and things unfold for her as they are unfolding for us. So that idea of a journey was critical to the entire piece. And I do love motifs. So there are recognizable motifs for throughout, not just her hymn, not just the journey aria, which this journey, and you'll hear her say, "I'm sorry."
Yes.
But what you maybe won't notice is when he finally confesses at the end, he says, "I killed her, sister. I killed her with my own two hands," which is the journey.
I had not noticed that before.
See?
Okay, thank you.
Learn something new every day.
Right. There's a little quintuplet motive that I think is really depicting the crime. Da da dee da da dee da da.
Right, which is how the opera opens. It's da 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 da, which is based on his name. Joseph Desrochers, Joseph Desrochers. So his name is built into woven through the whole thing as well.
Fascinated to hear about your creative process. Now, Joseph and Sister Helen have a very awkward first meeting.
Yeah.
And we're going to listen to a little bit of this from Madrid. He's full of bravado. He's not ready to admit anything. And he does something extremely inappropriate, which is to talk to a nun about the pleasures he's known with women.
Yeah.
Shall we listen first?
Yeah, let's do it.
About that. All right. And there's a little zydeco in this.
Yeah.
Right? Again, a fascinating artistic choice for you and Terrance to introduce him to us in this way.
Well, at first he's seeing if he can manipulate her, if she's gonna stay, is she gonna run away? How serious is she about coming to visit him? So he's challenging her, he's testing her the way he's always tested people. And and so that was part of this. And it was also us getting to hear a little bit of him, not only that he's trying to manipulate, but also the things that matter to him. And also at the end of this aria, there's a very human moment where you feel a bit of heartbreak. You see this humanity that's in there and aching to come out that has been pushed down all this time. That also becomes a big motif that everything is gonna be all right. It that happens throughout the piece as well. In fact, one of the things that I like to do with motifs that you'll hear in a performance is every character has motifs associated with them or an event. And once a character meets another, their motif is somehow they become more intertwined and they start influencing each other because each character, once someone comes into your life like that, you are changed in some way or touched in some way. And so everything keeps moving.
We have, speaking of moving,
Yes.
we have this incredible sextet, which is very contrapuntal, which is to say it's got many voices entering at different times with similar musical material. And this is Helen. She talks about this in her book. One of her early mistakes she realized was she had not reached out to the families of the murder victims who needed comfort, just as the prisoner did. Tell us what's going on in this sextet.
So this is just after the pardon board hearing where Joseph's mother has made her case to plead for her son's life. And while the decision is being made, Sister Helen goes out to wait, and the parents of the murdered teenagers are there waiting as well. And she hasn't ever gone over to them. So she goes over to them in this moment, and they start expressing their outrage and grief to her in a big sextet that's called You Don't Know. And what's interesting about it is we not only have the four parents of the murdered teenagers. You don't know what it's like to bear a child, raise a child. You don't know what it's like to bury your child. And then his mother, Joseph's mother, is also there, and she's still, you don't know what it's like to fail your child. So it's about parents and children and that loss. And then Sister Helen in the middle of it, how could I know? How could anyone know? And this big sextet does what opera does so well, which is you have all these people, expressing themselves at the same moment, and it's not a cacophony. It's a unified message of grief and loss.
This would not work in any other medium, in fact.
No.
If it's in a play or a telecast or movie, it would be a jumble, but
Yes.
music makes it work.
Exactly. And you believe it because they're all speaking from their heart.
And Terrance has given them words about, they're kind of obsessed with the very mundane things the last words they spoke to their kids. Fix your hair, take your keys.
Shut the door, do your homework. The
That's,
last things that you don't think are going to be the last thing you ever say.
Right. This is kind of going into the middle of it, but here's a little bit of this sextet.
So sad. You know what it's like to bury a child and try to find comfort anywhere. An empty chair at the table, his jacket on a hook. Lost words. Fix your blouse, do your home in your room. Shut the door. Take your key. Right, you're right. It's I don't know. How could anyone slip through your hands and think he'll never know how much I love him?
Susan Graham there as the mother of the murderer. She'll be singing it for us as she did at the Met. And she was, of course, the original Sister Helen in the show. So kind of a apostolic succession.
Yes.
And the original mother was your good friend, Frederica von Stade.
Our good friend.
Yes.
Flicka von Stade, who's going to be here for the opening. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I saw her at the dress rehearsal. I tripped down memory lane for Flicka as well. All right. This is the mother's moment. I always get a little misty in this one, even after all these years. It's a two-hanky opera. I would have to warn people. She is her saying goodbye to her son the very last time she's going to see him before he goes off to be executed. And she's very much trying to put a brave face on it,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Um, he's finally come to the realization that he needs to try to tell at least some of the truth. And he keeps trying to tell his mom in their last visit, and she keeps cutting him off because she doesn't want to hear it. She said, I believe you, Joey. I've always believed you. And he's just about to be taken away, and he has another outburst, and she says, no, no, son, don't say a word. And she is able somehow to muster giving him something that maybe he never actually felt from her growing up. And she's able to give him something beautiful and say, look, I'm smiling, remembering the little boy that I knew, remembering my little Joey. And it's a heartbreaking moment because her heart is breaking. He's about to be taken away to be executed. And it's a mother's last words to her son.
Let's listen.
Don't say a word. Let me look at you. See, I'm smiling. Smiling and remembering a little boy, my little Joey. How you love to swim and splash around in the water, all the funny tricks you do.
Yeah. And that's Susan Graham again.
Yes,
The original Sister Helen, and now Mrs. Desrochers. It's a miracle.
giving us a lump in the throat.
And Ryan McKinney, who is our Joseph Desrochers here.
Let's talk about the cast.
Yeah.
Patrick Summers conducts. He conducted the world premiere, and he's conducted almost all your operas.
Yeah, many of my full-length operas. Yes, yes. He's been a
long-time music director in Houston. He was also for many years our principal guest conductor here. And Leonard Folia's, this is not his debut here either. I should point out this production is not the one we did originally, but it's one that has been done in many places. And it originated, I think, just a few years after the premiere.
2 years after the premiere, a consortium of 7 companies across the country created a second production that, I mean, it was unheard of. It was just insane. And so that was all over the country, and then it started moving internationally. So this production has been seen in Europe, in all over this country, and in Canada. It's a brilliant, brilliant production.
Finally coming home.
Yes.
And Jamie Barton is our Sister Helen.
Yes.
She was, our audience here would know her as Fricka in the Ring.
Yes.
Most recently, Jezebaba and Rusalka. She has sung this before, though.
She sang it in Atlanta 7 years ago, I think. No, 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ryan McKinney, we have not seen him since Girls of the Golden West in 2017, but I believe he has done this part before also.
He did it in Chicago, and he did it at the Met a couple of years ago, and he's just extraordinary. You know, Jamie and he are just, they're so amazing together. Yeah.
And as you can see from the photo, Ryan's been working out.
Yes.
Since we last saw him, he's in very good shape.
Well, in the second act, you do have to do all these push-ups as you're singing a big aria, you know, so yeah.
In his underwear. Terrance
Yes.
was going to be in his underwear.
Yeah.
So he's ready for that. And Susan Graham, as we mentioned, she's the mother of the prisoner now. She was the original Sister Helen. Last year as Dido in the Trojans, but she's been here many, many times. She won the San Francisco Opera Medal. I think she was in Marilla back in 1990. So she's been around quite a while. And then Brittany Renee, more of a newcomer. She made her debut as Julie in Omar last year. And this is quite a crucial part, Sister Rose, the best friend, really, of Sister Helen.
Yes. Her go-to, her guide, her you know, her best friend that she can always turn to for the truth, and who is more than happy to offer the truth and guidance. She's emotional support for her as well. It's a very special role, and the relationship between Sister Helen and Sister Rose is critical to the
Rose really soars in the Act 2 duet, where the two women talk about forgiveness, and Helen is grappling with the challenge of finding it in her heart to forgive Joe's horrible
Right.
crime.
Right. Yes. And so they sing a duet. It's the middle of the night. Helen has had a terrible nightmare. Rose comes in to calm her down. And they start to talk about what forgiveness is. And sometimes it's just a small gesture. It's not something that you say. It's something that you do, showing up, taking someone's hand. Just a look or a smile can change everything.
And I think that opens the door for Helen to go where she needs to go and get Joe to open up.
Exactly. And the scene that follows is it's known as the Elvis scene. It's a very, very funny scene where they both find their love of Elvis. It was a brilliant idea of Terrance's. And then suddenly they aren't nun and prisoner. They're two human beings. They're Helen and Joe. And suddenly they can connect on a different level, which it is a very touching, special moment. Yeah.
And it opens a little emotional doorway.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rest of the cast. George Benton is the prison warden, Raymond Acetto, and Father Grenville is the priest, the chaplain at the prison, played by Chad Shelton. She and Sister Helen do not get along.
Yeah,
They
no.
clash.
Yeah, they definitely clash, yes.
And then a very important role is Owen Hart, the mother of the murdered girl.
Father.
Father of the murdered girl, played by Rod Gilfrey, and the mother is Kitty is Carolyn Corrales. And there's a very big moment in the first act where Owen Hart confronts
Yeah.
the mother of the prisoner.
During the pardon board hearing, he confronts her. And then he also confronts Sister Helen when she comes over to talk to them. And then in the second act, he has a really powerful moment where he's realizing he doesn't want to live in anger like this. And he doesn't know what's going to help him heal. But he knows he needs to do something.
And then rounding out the cast, the parents of the murdered boy, Howard Boucher, sung by Samuel White, and his wife is Nicola Prince. We're going to wrap up our little discussion here and get ready for questions from the audience, and I'm sure there are quite a few. But I thought it'd be nice to let Sister Helen have the last word.
Always.
So I should mention she's 86 now, right?
Yes.
And she's here
Yes.
she'll be at the opening on Sunday.
Yes.
Here she is telling us something important.
What I love about the opera is the fullest expression of art, because it's live drama where you're following the story, and it's also music that instructs the heart. It brings us to places we don't even know we have.
Not much to say to follow that up.
Right.
Right. Let's see if we have questions. I'll get out of screen share here, and we'll see if those of you who are listening online have any questions for Jake.
Yes, that was fabulous. Thank you both so much for doing this. We have more questions than I've ever seen for any of these. So we're just going to do our best to get through as many as possible. But first off, let's just jump into it. How did you approach the musical characterization of the protagonists, Jake? Specifically, Helen Prejean and Joseph Desrochers. Maybe like how did you begin, or how did you go about trying to sort of tell the audience something about these characters through music?
My job as the composer of an opera is to empathize and listen to the heartbeat of these characters and the heartbeat of every scene, and I just try to listen to them and let it emerge organically. The first thing that I wrote in the opera was the Journey aria and that whole scene, which gave me a lot of material for Helen. And then I started thinking about Joe, and his name, Joseph Desrochers, sort of led to that theme. And then I just started writing, and it's really me just listening to these characters and taking dictation from them. I have to not judge them, just listen to them as human beings. And Terrance gave me a great gift. The libretto is brilliant. It is an amazingly constructed libretto. And the way he set up events and how things emerge and unfold is concise and organic. He also gave me a great gift in that he said, I want the music to lead. Music must lead in an opera. And so I'm going to write scenes and characters and words that I hope will inspire music. If something is taking you in a different direction and the music is leading you, cut the scene, cut things, write dummy words until I have a chance to look at it, but make sure the music is leading you. And so I was able to listen to these characters and just let them lead me. And this is how I know I'm a theater composer. It's because the characters and the story and the heartbeat of that moment, that's what guides me. So I can't really tell you how I found it. I just listen and respond.
Yeah.
One of the things structurally that I think Terrance did very brilliantly is what I would call the four pillars of the opera, the two duets in either act between Sister Helen and the prisoner,
Yeah.
it develops really around those crucial
Yes.
encounters.
He set up the first part, we see the crime. So we see a murder. At the very end, we have the execution. So a different kind of murder, or is it? And in the middle, we have these four pillars, these scenes between Joseph and Helen, that each one leads them a little further towards opening their hearts and getting to the truth. And then we meet other people along the way. It's just a brilliantly constructed libretto. And the language he used, Terrance did, and also the permission to really let the music lead, was critical.
I think I often tell this to librettists, I'm sure you do too. They have to think of the words that's coming out of a singer's mouth. It's not the
Yes,
same as an actor.
absolutely. And also less words, less words. If you think about, and this is something that I talk to young composers about all the time, if you see a great Italian, German, Czech, whatever language opera, and you don't understand every word, you still understand emotionally what's going on, which is why opera plots can seem sometimes a little simplistic. This person wants this person wants this is in the way, because it isn't about that complexity. It's about that clarity so that then we can go into the deep complexity of the emotional world of what's happening for those characters. And that's something else that Terrance understood and gave me. Yeah.
We miss him.
Yes, we do.
Other questions, Max?
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of curiosity, and thank you for that answer. We have a lot of curiosity um, about about Jake's career. What was it like to be called upon for an artistic life? How did you make the jump between writing songs for Renee Fleming to writing an opera for a chorus of singers and a full orchestra?
That's something I wonder myself, actually.
Were you trained in orchestration and all
Oh
that?
yeah, I had gone to school. I went to UCLA. I'd been composing since I was 10 years old. My father committed suicide when I was 10 and growing up in Ohio, and music saved me again and again, and it became my refuge, the safe place. It's a place where I met my best friends and where I found joy and connection. And I often tell people, when you have music like that in your life, life can be very lonely, but you're never really alone when you have that. Um, and so I always knew my place was in music. I just didn't know how. And when I injured my hand, I thought I was going to be sort of adjacent, but still involved, which is why writing press releases and taking singers I loved my job, I really did. But then these other possibilities came along with writing for these great singers and then the opera. And I had wanted to write musicals when I was growing up because I didn't know anything about opera as a teenager. And so it sort of made sense. It just took someone opening the door. It's like it found me in a way. And so when the door was open to like go out there, I was prepared because I had been an apprentice essentially at the opera, watching operas produced from the ground up, listening to the structure, getting to know all the people that were involved in creating it. I knew
Watching
the
the
singers.
sausage being made.
Yes, exactly. And having an awareness of what it takes to bring something to stage. And I'm a theater person to my core. So it was just, I was really ready for it. And so when the doorway was opened by Lotfi and I was supported on every side, because they created a composer residency for me through Chase. And so I get to be home and my job was to write this opera. And I still had access to all the resources here at the opera company. So I felt very, very supported and safe. And it was the right project at the right time in my life and in our operatic history. And it just happened. I can't explain it except it's kind of a miracle and we can't explain those
It
things.
was maybe meant to be.
Yeah.
What else can we talk about, Max?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question about maybe an intention you want people to take away when they go and see this performance, and also a question about whether any of the operas sort of pulled from your own personal experience, maybe like emotionally or real events.
I think all of my work somehow pulls from something in me. And how could it not? Otherwise it would be inauthentic, and I strive for authenticity. I try to choose subjects that are vastly different from each other. So Dead Man Walking, The End of the Affair, Three Decembers, Moby Dick, It's a Wonderful Life, Intelligence. They're all very, very different stories because I want to challenge myself fresh. I don't want to just repeat myself. I want to find some new musical world or language and characters that I have to sort of stretch myself to express in a score. Um, but what I want people to, I just want people to enter the opera house with an open mind. The thing that's the magical thing about being in the opera house, again, I said this earlier, you're in a space with 3,000 people. You don't know all these people. You don't know how they voted, how they feel about issues that are important to you. And yet here you are now connected by this big human drama that you're experiencing together. And maybe now there's room for a dialogue about something that maybe something surprising, but we're connected as a community. And so I just hope people go in with an open mind and an open heart. And because one of the things the opera gives us through music, through drama, through staging, through glorious singing is different perspectives on what it is to have a human experience, different perspectives on what it is we do to get through this life, the joys, the sorrows, how we connect with each other. And every single opera worth its merit takes us on one of those journeys to show us a different perspective that maybe we'd never considered. So I'd say I hope people go with an open heart and that somehow by the end of it, they feel changed, just as I felt changed by the whole journey of it.
Yeah.
What else, Max?
This is maybe a good segue. There have been 80, it's been produced 80 times. How has sort of each iteration, each time you've been able to see it done differently impacted you? Have there been any depictions of characters or ways that the opera has been done that have really stuck with you, or influenced how you saw your own work?
Let me tell you a quick anecdote about this. Jake and I sort of live in the same neighborhood. I don't know if you remember running into each other in the Tuggy's Hardware on 24th Street. And I said, Jake, are you going to Australia for the Australian premiere of Dead Man Walking? And he said, well, no, I don't have time. I'm writing this other piece. And I thought, okay, well, that's a hallmark of a successful composer if you're too busy to go to the premieres of internationally you did ultimately go, I think.
I did. Yes, I did. Um, Remind me the question again. Sorry.
But seeing this piece in various
Oh yeah, no, I
places.
mean, this is the thing I live for is like seeing something that I wrote that I don't purport to know everything about. I mean, I wrote it the best that I could. But when you see like a new performer suddenly inhabit a role and you think, wow, I never considered it done that way before. It's a little bit like how excited we can get when we see Traviata again. We know all the notes, we know all the words, we know what happens, but an exciting Violetta emerges, and you can't wait to see how she's going to do that role. And it's what happens with the work is like a new director or designer comes up with a vision or a perspective. The first time I saw Joyce DiDonato do the role. It's the first time I saw Susan sing the mother. First time I saw Michael Mays do the convicted murderer. The first time I saw Ryan McKinney do that. I mean, and it's been over and over again, and with all these different pieces where suddenly I didn't realize it was done like that. And I've seen it, frankly, to be honest, I've seen it done where it's like, wow, that's amazing, to productions where I'm like, how can I get out of here as quickly as possible? And yet still somehow this piece in particular somehow resonates. I don't know what it is with the power of this piece, but like you said, even in Germany or Canada or, places that are abolitionist countries that do it, it still holds this really incredible power. Um, but yeah, that's part of the joy of writing songs and operas and scores is the different people that are going to interpret them, and I'm going to learn something from them.
But I presume after all these different performances, you've kind of learned to let go and just let it happen
You
without
have
getting
to,
involved.
you have to be there at the beginning to help your child, grow up and go out into the world in its first nice, set of clothes. But then you have to like push it out the door and go, okay, it's out of my hands now. We did the best we could. And, and sometimes it's a joyful revelation and sometimes it's like, oh God, help. But That's beyond my control,
Yeah.
and it's
I'm
just
sure it won't be the case coming up
oh no,
Sunday.
this is no Sunday. I mean, here it's like magical production, magical. I mean, and to have Patrick pacing and leading the whole thing, and Lenny's production, and this unbelievable cast, and to be back with the San Francisco Opera Orchestra and chorus, and the children's chorus, and it's just it's so gratifying. And it's also really gratifying that now that it's 25 years old, they don't really need me in the room, which is kind of the goal, as a composer, that you don't have to be there. I love being there. And of course, I've been there to show my support and help out, but I really haven't needed to do anything, it says, because this is such a team of professionals and several of the people have done their roles before. So very exciting.
We have a few minutes left, maybe time for one more question.
I think so. I think we should do a good closing one. I'm sorry, any audience members who didn't get their questions answered, but they were really excellent. Are there any new projects or collaborations on the horizon that you want to share with everyone?
Oh, sure. So I'm going to write an opera, a one-act opera for Festival Napa Valley for next summer, based on the famous event that happened in 1976 in Paris, that is known as the Judgment of Paris, which was a wine tasting with top French sommeliers, a blind tasting with French premium wines and Napa Valley and California wines. And the California wines won. And it was a scandal deluxe. And this is a fun opera. It's a one act that I'm working on. And I'm very excited about it. We've cast it beautifully. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's for next summer. And I'm working on a couple of other projects that I can't disclose right now. But I also started teaching at the San Francisco Conservatory, which is incredibly gratifying to be able to share with young people just at the beginning of their journey what I've learned in the professional world along the way.
And what's the first thing you tell aspiring composers?
To experience everything. Go to everything, every kind of music, dance, symphonic, chamber, jazz, everything. Try all the different kinds of food. Read different books. Go to movies. Go out into the world and experience these things. Go ahead and emulate and impersonate your heroes. Like Sondheim is one of my heroes. I go back to that all the time. Bernstein and Sondheim and Britten and Poulenc and but just write what's in your heart, write what matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, it's not going to matter to anyone else. But finding that passion.
What a great place to stop.
Mhm.
Jake, thank you so much for
My
taking this time to talk with us. It's always great to chat with you.
Thank you, Kip. My pleasure. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here and letting me share some time with you. I hope you enjoy the run of Dead Man Walking. I'm so excited.
Thank you both so much. I'm just going to do some announcements really quickly. But this was a pleasure. It was so great having you both on. Um, to get your tickets to Dead Men Walking, the production will be going from September 14th to the 28th. I will put a link to get your tickets in the chat. And Rigoletto is also currently on stage at San Francisco Opera through September 27th. And that is also a super beautiful and exciting production. You can see a live stream of San Francisco Opera's main stage productions at sanfranciscoopera.com/digital. We have a really great opera preview coming up for Parsifal on October 17th. And we have a great opera preview coming for The Monkey King as well, featuring David Henry Hwang. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everyone.